Stephen Smith is the founder of NoCD, who also has OCD, and on his left is the chief officer. What made you do this, Steve?
Personal experience. So I went through the ringer with OCD, and it onset very suddenly in a severe way, but I had something I've always noticed over the course of my life, but when I was in college in particular, it really onset severely.
Well, describe that?
Sure. So basically I went home for summer break after my sophomore year, and I went home to train for football. I was playing football at a small school down in Texas, and it had quite a bit of stress, and all of a sudden, one day I started having the severe taboo intrusive thoughts, or the taboo intrusive thoughts was severe anxiety that came from it, not knowing what was going on. It was
what is taboo intrusive thoughts?
So, intrusive thoughts that were, I would say, polar opposite to my core values and character. There are fears that I knew were, weren't going to come true, like it was illogical, but at the same time, I was crippled by them. I think you said it best too, even just about an hour ago or so on the podcast, which is you kind of know that what's going on isn't necessarily real, but you still have that severe response or that challenging response. So I started having that. It was like a sticky thought I couldn't get out of my head, no matter how hard I tried to make it stop. And eventually would do different actions to try to disprove the fear, right? And those actions, which I learned after the fact, were compulsions, and would spend just hours and hours of day just trying to make these fears go away.
Can you, and if you don't want to, I don't have to, but you want to. Oh.
I can go a little into it in terms of think of what to you would be the worst thing in the world. So maybe if you think, I would never want to think of my parents naked. Well, OCD is going to go, oh, well, there's your parents and they might be naked, so don't look at them. So you're going to walk around the house staring at the floor the entire time because that to you would be so taboo to think of. Or consider, if you're a really religious person, the most blasphemous thought that you could possibly have. And then OCD is going to say, now don't think about that, which is kind of the pink elephant effect. Once I tell you not to think of a pink elephant, you're going to think of it. So now you're going to do whatever you can mentally or physically to try to neutralize that, because if you don't, you think that horrible, awful, bad thing will happen to you.
Yeah. So what I learned from being with, I personally, and I think I've been open about this, but I don't remember not suffering from this. And for me, I've had intrusive thoughts, fears, rituals, so much so that it's so fucking noisy that I can't move on, and I've missed things. And she was raised by me. I'm sure that the reason that she has it is because of me, whether it's genetically or because that was the environment that I brought you up in. But and I've done like horrible things where, getting angry and just stopping our life. I think you once touched me with your foot in the car on the way to the airport. We were going to on vacation, and her foot touched my pants because she crossed her legs, and I think we almost missed a flight, but I made them turn the car around and went home and changed my pants, which I realize is ridiculous, but I can't get past that. I can't, even the more I realize that it's ridiculous, the more I'm intellectualize it's crazy. It just makes it harder to kind of realize that this is how I'm acting, and I can't control how I'm acting, and I can't control my compulsion, and I can't, and it stops your life.
Totally. That's what I experienced too, and which was ultimately what caused me to not know where to go to get help, right? And so I was misdiagnosed 6 or 7 times, and then eventually hit that rock bottom point where I was just desperate, searching online for different solutions, and saw someone else out there who was going through literally the same exact experience that I was, and they could fill in the same sentences that I would fill in, right, if I was to describe my symptoms. And they said what I'm going through is OCD. And that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, wait a second here, there's a name for this. Now where do I go get help? And that's where there was a series of other barriers to getting the actual help that was evidence-based and needed. And so eventually, though, I was able to finally get to the help. It was super challenging to pay for it, given it was so expensive. It was also, I think my therapist had a 7-month wait list at the time when I wanted to get help, but eventually got off the wait list, and I saw her, and she diagnosed me and then treated me, and fortunately was able to regain my life. Went back to school, came out here to LA to a small liberal arts school in Claremont, California, and finished up my degree, finished up playing football. And I was like, this is an operational issue. It's really not a clinical issue, given how effective you can actually, or given how much better you can get by accessing effective treatment. We just need to get more people identified so they can understand what this is really like you were describing, and then we can need to get them to this effective treatment. Well, if it's a stigmatizing issue you don't want to talk about, then we need to build a better system to get people, not necessarily to fit into the current the current healthcare system, but we need to bring the healthcare system to them, and that's what we've effectively have tried to do at NoCD.